You have to learn the language of money so that it's something that you're fluent in. But just like any language, you can't just try to read one book or take one class and think you're going to be an expert in it. Building wealth is a process. Building wealth is a part of who you are. Like when I think about the clients I saw on Wall Street, they didn't just invest one time and then it was over. They didn't just read one book. This is a part of, like, building wealth was a standard. Passing it down was a standard. Investing was a standard. The same way we prioritize paying our bills or we prioritize shopping, they prioritize wealth building, and that's why they have a different lifestyle. That's why they have more money, because their priorities are just different.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Marvin Francois Show, your number one source for all things business, finance, and investing. And today is a very special day because our guest today is an entrepreneur, investor, financial educator, public speaker, philanthropist, former Wall Street analyst, and wealth building strategist extraordinaire. She's the founder and CEO of Empify, a people-first financial education company dedicated to breaking generational curses by making wealth-building knowledge accessible, relatable, and actionable for all communities. To date, she's helped Black and brown families all across the country invest well over multiple millions of dollars and brought her programs to classrooms, prisons, and underserved neighborhoods nationwide. Whether she's creating free value content around passive income strategies or sharing her path to success on stage in front of thousands, her journey is one of passion, persistence, and purpose personified. And her mission is simple: to empower the 99% that Wall Street overlooks and make building wealth simpler and more possible than it's ever been before. And today, she's here to do more of the same. Ladies and gentlemen, from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, I'm here with the one, the only, my good friend, Miss Ashley M. Fox. What's going on, family? How are you?
I love that intro. I got to steal that.
Hey,
Thank you
come
for
on.
having me.
Of course. Thank you for coming on. I've been looking forward to this interview for quite some time.
Thank you.
You are remarkable in more ways than I can count, and I'm excited for this conversation. It's going to be a good one.
Yes.
Yeah. So obviously I did an okay job introducing you, but of course no one knows Miss Ashley Fox like the woman herself. So for those who are unfamiliar, let's get them familiar. Who exactly is Ashley M. Fox?
Well, I am this beautiful being living in this human body, in this human world. But outside of that, I am the CEO and founder of Empify, which is a merging of the word empower and modify. So we are a fintech startup that revolutionizes how adults and children learn how to build wealth. So think of us like the Netflix of finance, where adults from all over the world have access to financial tools and resources in the palm of their hand. We've created financial programs, like you said, have been in prison systems, school systems, teaching the topic that we don't like to talk about, but the world is yearning to know, but in a space where it's easily broken down so that you feel like it is something you can accomplish versus something that you run away from.
I love that. There was a lot there, and I'm sure your journey to getting to this point was not a linear one, right?
Yep.
So let's unpack that a little bit. Let's go all the way back to the early days in Philadelphia. What did life look like for the young Ashley Fox growing up when it came to family, friends, and just money and business?
So I come from a two-parent home. I would say we grew up middle class. We weren't rich, but we were okay. I always loved math and I loved business. So I knew I was going to be this profound Black woman on Wall Street. I was an athlete. I played tennis. I played basketball. I played soccer. I played softball. I played everything. But now that I think about it, I was always entrepreneurial. I was a little creative as well. I drew. I wrote poetry. But for me, it was just about being the best and being successful. And to me, at that time, success was having a lot of money. And when I graduated high school, I knew I wanted to go to the best HBCU in the world, Howard University, and I wanted to work on Wall Street. And so when I got to Howard, I had 4 internships in school, 3 of them at Wall Street banks. I lived in New York City, realized this is the life that I want, and I was just going to be this profound woman who was going to change the world, but on Wall Street. So I never had dreams of being an entrepreneur. My father was in law enforcement. My mother is a student advisor at UPenn. First person in my family to go to college, the oldest of 3. But I knew that I deserved to be in the money world. Like that was something I wanted to dress. I wanted to travel. That was like my dream. And when I got to Wall Street, it was a dream come true. I worked with rich people. If you had at least $25 million or more, it was our job to help grow your wealth, protect it, and preserve it. So if you think about it, every day I was in the bank accounts of millionaires and billionaires. And I got really exposed to I got exposed to a lifestyle that I was not used to growing up in Philly. So when I got to Wall Street, I was around people with money, right? At that point, that was the first time I was around people who traveled to the south of France, people who invested in the stock market, people who created businesses. And I realized that that's the life I want, right? And I started to understand that if I stayed on Wall Street, I was not going to be in a position to have $25 million or more. And that was a starting point. They all created something. They invested in their own idea or they invested in somebody else's idea. So I really started to follow the blueprint of what I saw on Wall Street. So I think my mother, my father, my surroundings in Philly led me to get the best grades in school, to want to be the best. But when I got to Howard, I realized that being the best is what would allow me to be in the best spaces and some of the most successful companies. And I landed my dream job on Wall Street. But on Wall Street, that's when I really got exposed to what was possible. That's when I got exposed to people who didn't aspire to be on Wall Street. They were Wall Street clients. And I realized I deserved to be wealthy. I realized wealth doesn't have a color. And I felt like I deserved to be the client versus the person keeping rich people rich for a living.
Come on. Okay. So you talked about how it was kind of like a mindset shift because coming up in Philadelphia, the conversations around business and entrepreneurship were a little different, not a lot different than what they were when you were on Wall Street. So what were there any lessons that as you were navigating your adolescence and going into college and preparing for Wall Street that you look back in retrospect, and even if you didn't realize it at that time, you can now look back and say, those are things that I didn't know it in the moment, but were shaping me and to start preparing for me for what's to come now?
One of the biggest things that I think about, even just my first internship on Wall Street, I never felt like I fit in. Like I was a Black woman. There weren't a lot of Black people. Everyone dressed a certain way. They ate different foods. And so I think in my mind, I operated like I wasn't good enough. But in the same breath, I am going to be good enough. I deserve a seat at the table. I'm going to figure out how to get there. And what I think it did, it put me in uncomfortable spaces where I was different, where I didn't have that kind of money. But one of the biggest things it does to me now, what allows me to build and run my company, Amplify, I now saw what was possible. And so you can't tell me I can't be a billionaire because I've been in homes of billionaires. I've been in bank accounts of billionaires. So what it did, it instilled the belief that it was possible because not everybody wants to be on Wall Street. Not everybody has the opportunity to really see what wealthy people do with their money every day. We may aspire to be wealthy, but we don't know the blueprint or how they operate or what they eat, what they drink, how they travel, how they talk to their children, what they do with their money. So I think in those spaces of discomfort, it filled my cup because when I left Wall Street, that same cup that got filled on Wall Street was poured out to the people that I served. So at the time I didn't know, and it's interesting because even when I left Wall Street and I started to really push and build Amplify, we were in prison systems and school systems. So in Philadelphia, we had a contract with the school district in Philadelphia, and I was in the lowest performing schools in the city. And it's interesting because I started with the wealthiest people in the world all the way down to the prison system. So my perspective of what's possible came from what I saw on Wall Street. It'd have been different if it was flipped. If I would have started in the prison system, my belief for the world that I serve would not have been the same if I did not start on Wall Street. So at the time, I did not know that that's what life was preparing me to be. But when you think about being a Black woman, being on Wall Street, getting exposed to what I got exposed to, you typically don't see that. But it's because of that gave me the strength and confidence to say, if I can help these wealthy people, I know if I can buy my stocks because I'm seeing wealthy people do it and I'm following their blueprint, now I can teach you not just from what I read in a book, but from something I've actually lived, and I can bring it to the people who will never step foot in the buildings that I've stepped foot in or go through the accounts that I went through.
It's very interesting because you talked about getting into that space. I think from the outside looking in, to your point, there are a lot of people who look like us that'll never be in some of the rooms and conversations that you were in where you're working on Wall Street. So we kind of have to think about it from the outside looking in. Like when I even for me, if I'm thinking about Wall Street, I think about a dude in a tux that's making, managing hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm thinking about all these boards with all these ticker symbols and things going on. But you were in it, right? So to your point, you had a seat to where you were able to be on the inside and then look out. What do you think were some of the things you remember most from your times navigating as, like you said, a Black woman being in a space where there aren't too many of you? What were some of the most memorable moments as you were going through that season?
Couple of things. One, I'm a firm believer that things are not taught, they're caught, right? So in those moments, I'm watching wealthy people invest every morning. I think at like 8 o'clock in the morning, we have these meetings. They're talking about strategies to give wealthy people. And everybody just talking about investing. And I'm sitting here with a checking and a savings account. And I'm in their bank accounts and I'm seeing they have multiple checking accounts, multiple savings accounts, multiple brokerage accounts. And I'm like, well, I'm not on track to be like these people, so let me start. And so while they may have started with $100 million, I started with $100 and I bought my first stock. So one of the things I believe, it shifted my mindset to really put me in a position to show me what I could do. And instead of being uncomfortable, thinking, oh, I'm the only Black girl or I'm not good enough, is let me follow this blueprint. So Wall Street really gave me a blueprint to doing what I saw, like where they traveled. Like on Wall Street, a lot of wealthy people travel to the south of France. So guess what I did? I went to the south of France. They rented a yacht. I got a smaller yacht, right? Like they ate at certain restaurants. They traveled to certain countries. I just started to do what I saw wealthy people do, and it opened my mind to so much and what was possible. So I think it's the little things, not just the discomfort that it gave me, but like if this is my environment, every day I'm uncomfortable. Every day I am probably the lowest paid person on my floor, and I'm looking at people's investment accounts, and the fee, my salary annually is the fee they pay in one of their thousands of mutual funds. So one, I realized, one, I'm shooting at the wrong basket.
Come on.
But two, if they can do what I can do, and then I was sitting client meetings, and I knew more about their money than what they did, but I was more curious about how you created your wealth. And that's what I started to study. I started to read the books that our clients were reading. I started to study and read up on them and really start to find the commonalities in how they thought, what was a priority in their life. And at that time, I'm traveling to Vegas, Miami, Cancun. They're going to the south of France. Well, where is that? I didn't even know where that was. Or they're traveling to Switzerland for the weekend. And so I'm looking these things up because I want to feel like I understand versus feeling like I'm an outsider. So I just essentially followed the blueprint. And I think that was one of the coolest things of just being on Wall Street.
There's so much that you said there. The first thing is pretty much starting where you are. I think that's very important because when we have the conversation around wealth and investing and money, a lot of people psych themselves out of doing the work because they'll look at you and be like, well, I'm not where Ashley's at, so I can't start. But even for you, when you're in these rooms where you're sitting next to individuals that are managing tens of millions, hundreds of $1 million, you're not saying to yourself, I don't have that and I can't go. You're saying, well, what do I have and how can I make it work, right? And how can I do it to a certain degree just to start ingratiating myself with the practices and the habits and beyond. You're in an interesting situation now where you coach a lot of people who are trying to get to where you're trying to get to. When you're sitting down with these people who are trying to build wealth or chasing wealth and establish it for themselves, do you think that from a mindset standpoint, that's one of the biggest things that may be holding us back to where it's like, well, if I don't have $100,000, that means I can't get started, right? Versus, well, I have 1,000, I have 100, I got $10. What can I do with this to start working in towards the direction of building wealth?
So yes, I think, to be honest, I think there is no lack of financial education in the world anymore. It's 2025. Back when I left Wall Street in 2013 to start Amplify, you still had to pay for transactions when you process a trade in a brokerage account. Things are a lot more accessible, which I think is a phenomenal thing because people are talking about topics like this. But the biggest thing, even though we're talking about it, even though it's becoming more accessible, there's still a mental barrier that stops us from building wealth. The same Ashley that felt like she didn't deserve to be in a room was also the same Ashley that said, I will be in this room. I think we stop in I can't invest, I'm scared, I'm gambling. I don't have a lot of money, I have bills, I'm in debt. We come up with all the reasons why we cannot do it because we're so used to not being able to do it. We're so used to not having, therefore, it's easier to argue for my limitations than it is to instill greatness within me to say that I can do this. So I spend a lot of time helping people unlearn the narratives and the stories that society has put in our mind that we have experienced growing up as children, and really showing you, one, if you have $5, you can invest. But the thing is, this is so interesting because people who have money are afraid because they feel like they should have learned this a long time ago. People who don't have money feel embarrassed because they don't have a lot of money. It's just like there's always somebody and some reason of why you can't build wealth. It's not the perfect time. You got a lot going on. Yet every time I'm teaching someone, with our members inside our Wealth Builders community app, just everybody that we're teaching, everyone says, I wish I would have learned this earlier. The problem is you don't want to learn it now so that you're not saying a year from now, I should have learned this earlier. So there's always a reason. And so I spend more time helping people implement. And so when I think about just what Amplify has done as a company, our members today have invested over $13 million. They didn't start with $13 million. None of them have $13 million, but they all started with at least $20. And they $20 their way to create the life that they want. But the thing is, you can't. I always tell people, you don't come to me, don't come to Amplify. We will not get you rich quick. It's not going to happen. I am not that girl. Unfortunately, I can't do that. But I can ensure that you have the strategies and tactics to make sure you have wealth forever that can be passed down to your kids. Because I always tell people being rich is having a lot of money right now. Being wealthy is having money generation after generation. I watched on Wall Street how some of the biggest names would have multiple accounts for their entire family tree. And they do everything they can to make sure they protect it and preserve it, when in all actuality, we're trying to create the first wealth builder in our family.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be the first, then you're going to have to unlearn and do things you've never done, and also be around people you may have not been around before, or create environments that you're not used to, because it is uncomfortable. If it was easy, there wouldn't be a 1%, right? There wouldn't be a 0.001%. So it's really helping people shift their thought process around, I've waited too long. I've made too many mistakes. Yes, I didn't grow up with money. Yes, they didn't teach me in the school system, but now I have the pen to write the next chapter in my life. I'm going to make this a bestseller. And that is a decision we have to make when we look in the mirror. So sometimes I have to tell people, no, you're not behind. No, you're not too old. You have to just start today, because there are $1 billion, $1 trillion businesses out there. The wealth gap is not getting any, like the money is there, right? And so regardless of the situation, what's going on in the economy, what's going on in your household, the only person that can save you is a person in the mirror. So I spend more time teaching people how to love themselves more, so that they know that they can show up for themselves and be the best as they can with what they have, doing what they're capable of doing.
Powerful, powerful. So you said something key. You said a lot there, but there was one thing that I latched onto where you talked about when you're sitting down with these individuals and you're coaching them, you spend more time helping them unlearn a lot of beliefs that they have around money and wealth than you do actually giving them the strategies and beyond. For the several years that you've been in this space, what are the most common blocks around money and wealth that you've seen most people are dealing with right now that we can help them shift on this podcast episode?
I'm too old. I had a conversation with my makeup artist and my hairdresser, and they was like, I'm just older and I'm behind, and they're in their 20s. I sat and did our Wealth Builder Weekend conference in front of people who were in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, and they said the same thing that the 20-year-old said, which goes to show you, first off, age, it's not an age, it's a dollar amount, right? What if you live another 30, 40 years, and today is your day one? How are we going to set the tone and learn from the previous 20 years of what you didn't do to make sure the next 20 years of your life are different, but every single day counts? So I think a lot of people think they're just behind. Like, we just naturally, like, and I can be honest, it's not even about money. I feel like I'm behind sometimes, right? Like in different areas of my life, but understand that you did the best that you could and you're undefeated at life. There is no trial and tribulation that you have not overcome if you are still here. Therefore, you are undefeated. You can do anything, and really putting people in a position to say, one, you can do it, but I'm going to do it with you. And so, like, our members inside of our app, like, we have programs where you finish the program after you bought your first stock, after you got that first dividend, to show you, one, it's not as hard as you think it is. I always tell people it's like reading the back of a medicine bottle. If you ever read the back of a medicine bottle, you don't know what it says. Like, you don't know. But if you ask a doctor, they'll say, oh, this is just for a headache. This is just for a cold, because it's in a language that you're not familiar with. When it comes to money, it's the same way. You have to learn the language of money so that it's something that you're fluent in. But just like any language, you can't just try to read one book or take one class and think you're going to be an expert in it. Building wealth is a process. Building wealth is a part of who you are. Like, when I think about the clients I saw on Wall Street, like, they didn't just invest one time and then it was over. They didn't just read one book. This is a part of, like, building wealth was a standard. Passing it down was a standard. Investing was a standard. The same way we prioritize paying our bills, or we prioritize shopping, or, just anything, they prioritize wealth building. And that's why they have a different lifestyle. That's why they have more money, because their priorities are just different. We just have to learn how to prioritize differently. But sometimes it's not as easy if you are not around people like that. And so I created Amplify to create that environment for people. Because I understand when you step outside of our app, or if you go follow somebody else on social media, I can't control what you're around, but I can control what I give you and what I instill in your heart, what I instill in your mind, and creating that environment that it's like you just drinking the Kool-Aid. Like, this is every day we're talking about investing. Every day I'm shifting your mindset, and every day you're making it a priority to pay yourself and really instilling that so that it becomes a habit. The same way you learn the lyrics to a song, whether you like the song or you don't, the more you hear it, you just start to memorize the lyrics. What if I start to train people to memorize the language of money, memorize the language of wealth building? And that's essentially what I do every day.
Do you think, you said something before as well, you talked about a little bit earlier about speaking with people and helping them understand that they deserve to be wealthy and they deserve to have an abundance of money and beyond. How do you think that there is from your experience, a direct correlation with self-worth and net worth, to where you have a group of individuals that are coming from our community that are working towards these goals, but maybe it's so difficult for them to get to that point because it's like, I'm working towards this dollar amount that internally I don't even feel like I deserve to have this thing. I don't even feel like I deserve to be at this. I don't deserve to be a millionaire. I don't deserve to be the black sheep of my family and to change the tide for generations to come. Have you seen that to be true in your experience?
Yes, but sometimes it's not always loud. Sometimes it's quietly said in your mind. And
Okay.
sometimes that voice is the most dominant voice. Because on the other end, there's this other voice that says, well, what if I can do it? Well, I saw this person do it, or what if it's possible? And I think it's us being still enough to be able to hear both the voices. Because I think about that. I walk around calling myself $1 billion CEO every day.
Mm.
I am afraid to have $1 billion. That's exactly why I don't have $1 billion. That's why I'm not $1 billion CEO. But there were points where like $1,000 was a lot of money,
Right.
and now it's not. It's all relative. You ask Jay-Z and Beyonce about a $50,000 jet ride, that's pennies to them.
Right.
But at one point, that may have been a lot of money. So one is relative. It's about how you perceive it. And so I think what I do and what I tell people is to start to normalize. You don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. So I'm going to train my mind to think, talk, walk, and operate like I'm $1 billion CEO. What are they doing? What do their 24 hours look like? The life that they're living, and is it congruent with the life I say that I want? We can say we want to be a millionaire, but do you know what to do with $1 million? Do you know how to sustain $1 million?
Yeah.
Do you know what you need to do to be able to create it? But before you create it, you have to embody the person who has it. Because what happens is, that's why a lot of people who get a lot of money, they ultimately go broke, is because you never change the person with the money. Giving you more money is not going to fix your problem. One thing is, we have a retirement boot camp inside of our app. And I ask everybody when they take it, how many of you know what you're investing in and know exactly how your company retirement account works? Like, who here has no idea, right?
Mm.
You don't know what you're investing in, how it works. You'd be surprised. So many people say, I don't know. They don't know. They don't know. So then I ask them, well, how much of your money do you care about? And then they say all of it. So you can't care about all your money if you don't know where it is. So how about we first start with understanding what you have, how it works, because giving you more money won't solve your problem. If you can't handle the little bit of money you have now,
Yeah.
making more money is not going to make the process any easier. You're going to be even more overwhelmed. The more money I make, the more overwhelmed I get.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'll say to myself, well, this is what you asked for. Like when people learn about investing and they realize is you got to put in work. It's not something you're just going to do and flip overnight. You have to put in work. And that's what is required of you to become the person you said you wanted to be. Now, if you don't want to be that person, you don't want to have that kind of money, then you don't have to have these kind of habits. But this is what is required. And you have to put that in front of people, because a lot of people, it sounds good, but if you don't internalize it, believe it, because a belief is just a thought you've told yourself over and over and over again, right? Some people believe basketball is the best sport. Some people believe Christians, like it depends. Everyone is different.
Yeah.
But if you change your belief system and you start to literally unlearn to then relearn, well, what if I become a millionaire? Well, if I was a millionaire, what would I be driving? Where would I be living? What kind of life would I have? How would my family be? Start to really create that life. And while it might not be here, what you're doing energetically is shifting your mind to believe, to operate and talk like that person. And so for me, I'm going to walk around saying I'm $1 billion CEO. And every time something happens, I ask myself, would $1 billion CEO respond this way? Is this the type of problem $1 billion CEO would have? If not, why are you reacting this way? And sometimes I have to retrain my mind, because it's so easy to fall back in who I used to be. I've been kicked out of places before. I've lost money, and it's so easy to resort back. Well, what if I'm not good enough? What if I lose all my money? But you have to be so present and actually understand what voice is the most dominant in your head, because in reality, I'm going to become $1 billion CEO.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to make mistakes. Yes, I'm going to have fear. All of that exists, and it's okay for them both to exist at the same time. But what is the most dominant voice that is going to cause you to act and operate to become the person that you want to become?
Through your experience now, as you're continuing to navigate your own financial journey, and you're still meeting and conversing with people that are doing well over 7, 8, and 9 figures. For me personally, in my own individual journey and speaking with a lot of high-level entrepreneurs, one of the things I've seen is that, like, a lot of times I'll come into the conversations with them and I'll think like, oh, this person is probably one of the smartest individuals ever and beyond. But then in me just watching how they move and how they operate, I notice like it's less about the things that they know and more about just the habits and the practices that they have on a day-to-day. For example, for me personally, most of the high-level business owners that I speak with, all of them are just tenacious when it comes to all the goals that they have. If I put it on the calendar, if I got to get done, it doesn't matter if I have 80% of the information, 50% of the information, it's getting done. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. What are some of the common traits that you are seeing around amongst most of the successful individuals in your space that we can now harp on and start incorporating in our day-to-day living?
I got a whole lot.
Come on. They gave me 3, 13, however many.
I think the first thing is you have to take inventory of what you're putting in your mind, right?
Okay.
What you're consuming, not just what from what you're consuming on social media, but also the people you're surrounded by and the energy you internalize.
Yep.
Because the more you consume, the more you start to become that, right?
Mhm.
You'll talk, walk, and operate like people because you're around it.
Yep.
So I think one of the things too is be cognizant of what you're surround. So many people are draining your energy. So many people are just it's you might not feel good around them.
Mhm.
So it's one, being very conscious of what makes you feel good. Do a lot more of the good things that make you feel good instead of doing the things you don't want to do. I'm really big on alignment. The other thing I would say is, what are you reading? One of the things I did learn on Wall Street, they all read the same books. And so I just started to read all the books that successful people read when I started to Google the clients that I had.
Mm.
The other thing, like I said before, making investing a priority. I think most people look at things like an expense. To me, I try to not even use the word expense. I look at everything like an investment.
Mm.
Where am I investing my time? Where am I investing my money? And is it going to give me the return that I'm looking for? So if I go shopping, right? What is the investment in these clothes? Well, when I wear these clothes, and I go on this podcast, it's an investment in my confidence so that I can operate and feel the best, look the best, so I can show up the best. So when I look at how I buy clothes and what I buy, it's an investment. When I travel to Paris, it's an investment in my energy. It's not just because I like to do it. It helps me feel better so that when I come back and try to show up for the world, my cup is now full. So really understanding where you investing your time, where you investing your energy, where you investing your money. The other thing too, and this is just me personally, I've learned this over the years, it's just showing up for you, right? I've been going to therapy since 2017. I have multiple different coaches, and I'm actually looking for another coach now because I am very self-aware of where I need help.
Mhm.
And I'm not afraid to say I need help. As long as I'm aware that I need help and I don't have the answers, I'm going to figure out how I can be better.
Yep.
And I think there's a natural desire to be the best version of Ashley Fox I want to be the best partner in my relationship. I want to be the best daughter. I want to be the best CEO. I want to be the best in every area. And I want to do my best and give myself grace if I'm not operating at my best today. And so one of the things that I believe is, what are you putting in your body? What are you doing to your body? How are you talking to yourself when you look in the mirror?
Yeah.
Because you are no good to the world. You are no good to live out your goals if you aren't the healthiest and the best version of yourself. So I've learned just throughout my entrepreneurial journey, just with the people that I've worked with, I've put me first. And it took me a really long time to even think that I deserve to be put first. But it's like, what does it look like to show up for Ashley? What does it look like to love Ashley? What does it look like to feed Ashley the best foods? What does it look like to take care of Ashley's body in the best way possible? Because why do I deserve anything less? And so for me, I am the best. I operate the best. I do my best every day. And I wake up with that in mind, but I put me first. Because if I'm not good, there's no way I can serve my family, the world, and I've accepted that that's who I am. And so I think with a lot of people that I've been around, like you said, the tenacity, but it's also making sure that they take care of themselves and do the best that they can. And there's a constant desire for just personal development. All that other stuff comes about. The money will come. If you show up your best, the opportunities will come. If you put yourself in the best spaces, the opportunities will come because you're now showing the world how you deserve to be treated. There were points in my life where I didn't think I deserved love, or I didn't think I was good enough to have money. And I spent more time showing up for myself, comforting myself, loving myself, so that I felt like I deserved to have the best life possible.
You said something, you talked about putting yourself first, and I want to dive a little bit more into that, because a lot of times when you're in a season or navigating a time in your life where you have to put yourself first, for lack of a better term, there's a bit of collateral damage that happens there from the standpoint of, and you're laughing, so I'm sure you could probably attest to it, but I think people underestimate how sacrificial the path to success is, to the extent that a lot of times when you are working towards certain goals and ambitions, in your case, you're working towards being a $1 billion CEO, but even on much lower levels, there are going to be certain conversations that you just have to have with people around you that you love dearly, but that just can't come along with you on this journey that you're going to be on. They can't have access to you in a certain way because, like you said, you're in a season where you're building your self-worth, you're establishing systems, you're building foundations for where you want to be tomorrow. And as a result, hey, I can't speak with you today because the kind of conversations that we're having aren't conducive to the woman or the man that I'm trying to become. Talk a little bit about what that experience has been like for you and your journey and how you've had to navigate some of those difficult conversations, because I think for a lot of people watching, that may be keeping a lot of individuals from taking that next step in building wealth and working towards investing towards like, well, I want to be wealthy, but I mean, I can't leave moms behind. I can't leave my dad behind me, my sister. I mean, she's not the best, but I want her, keep her around. What has that experience been like for you?
I think it happens in every season of your life. I probably feel like that's happened to me at least 5-6 times I could think about.
Okay.
But nobody talks about the mourning you go through when letting the old version of you die and allowing the new version of you to become. And I've been in spaces where I had to let go who I have been to become the Ashley I want to be.
Yeah.
But it's still scary because you're not the Ashley you want to become. You're still like an infant, yet you are slowly detaching yourself from the things and the people and experiences that got you to where you are. And I always tell people what got you here won't get you there. But sometimes it's about what matters more, sacrificing your happiness for somebody else or owning your happiness and loving you through that process.
Yeah.
And understanding everything happens for a reason. And I'm just really big on, and what'll happen is, while it might not be that conversation you're ready to have, at some point, you will be ready. Or at some point, it will blow up because you have not been ready to have that conversation, and just kind of trust the process. And so when it came to me, I think I have avoided a lot of things over the course of my life to avoid the uncomfortable conversations. And then it always ends up transpiring in a way I didn't expect.
Yeah.
But I have no regrets. And if you think about the life, who you are today, and look at all the experiences you went through, you understand why you went through what you went through to be the person you are today. When I think about my life 3 years ago and what I experienced, who was in my life, who's not in my life, relationships I've had, just different things, this version of Ashley, it makes sense why those things aren't in my life, those people aren't in my life. Yet this was the Ashley I dreamt of being 3 years ago. And now that I see those experiences happen, I'm grateful for them.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you can't always understand your life while you're living it, but you can always put the pieces together in retrospect. So for me now, I trust that if I'm not ready to have that conversation, then I'm not ready, and that's okay. But at some point, I will have to in order to get to this next level, and accepting that. But it's also understanding and look in the mirror. Do I deserve this relationship? Do I deserve this drain on my life? Do I deserve this negative energy? And until you realize you don't deserve it, you won't make a decision to put it out your life. And I always tell you the word decide. When you see side at the end of a sentence, it means to kill. Decide means to kill all other options. So you have to make a decision, and you might not be ready, and that is okay. But also understand, I always tell myself when it comes to me making the choices, is this going to put me in a position to be the version that I want to be? If this is, then I'm going to do that. If it doesn't, then it has to get out of my way. But you have to have the confidence to say, get out of my way. So some situations and relationships, it took me a year to have a conversation. It took me some time, but it was when I was ready. So maybe if you're not having that conversation, maybe if you're procrastinating, it just means your nervous system has not caught up with who you say you want to be, and that is okay. But understand, to become a new version of you and to become the unthinkable, you are not going to be able to take what got you here. You're not going to be able to take the same habits. You're not going to be able to take the same people. And that is okay, because that group of people or that experience or those habits got you to become this version of you.
Yeah.
And that is great. But when you think about becoming someone else, you haven't even seen that person before. Therefore, you have to kind of trust the journey in the process. And so I think I've learned that over the years. I can say back in 2017 with a whole lot of therapy, I've become a lot more, but I didn't understand it. But now as I go through this next level of where I want to go, I'm seeing the same patterns.
Yeah.
I'm seeing the same stuckness. I'm seeing the same discomfort. I'm seeing the same sadness. And it's like, I've been here before, but I know who I became as a result of what I went through. And I know that it's going to work out. And it's not on my timing, but it will happen when I am ready for it to happen.
Beautiful. I want to switch gears a little bit here. You talked earlier about, we talked periodically throughout this interview about miseducation. You being in this financial literacy space, me being in this financial literacy space, there's a lot of buzzwords that we hear are thrown around that I think contribute to people who may come into your program and it's like, hey, can I become a millionaire overnight? Can I make multiple millions in a year and beyond? One of those buzzwords being passive income. I think there may be a bit of miseducation and information around that. But with you being an expert in this space, who better to speak to than the woman herself? So when we talk about passive income, is there truly such a thing as money that we can make as individuals that we don't have to work for, that money that essentially is generated in our sleep? Because we hear it all the time, but what does that actually look like?
So the answer is yes, and it can come from a variety of places. I think you have to decide, and I think this is the one downside to being exposed to so much information. You'll find people, I'll buy courses, I'll sign up for this, I'll do this. I'm trying everything because I don't have an identity. Imagine remember in high school when you had different groups of friends and this person talked about you, and it's the same thing when it comes to learning about money. And I think it's a great topic that we talk about. And like you said, there are a lot of buzzwords, but you also have to accept what works for you, right? So people are like, yeah, I want to learn crypto, but I don't teach that. That's not, I'm a firm believer that I teach what I do and what I lived. I don't read finance books. I think they're boring. And I'm not about to read a book and think I'm going to be an expert, right? Yeah. So yes, you have to be able to protect your mind, protect your energy, but come into this world with the expectation of good information. Come into this world knowing that I'm going to learn and receive what I'm supposed to receive and do away what I don't want. When I think of the world of money and creating passive income, it's like a buffet. I think the world now is saying you deserve to be in this restaurant, right? I created my company, Amplify. You deserve a seat at this table. Now look at all the food that's laid out. What food works for you, right? All the food can pay you passive income, but it doesn't mean you can eat the entire buffet all on one plate. But I would challenge people to figure out what doesn't work for them. I took this, I tried, I traded for 30 days. I don't want to do it. I'm not trying to get rich quick. I think I've done way better following my heart and doing what I love. I don't want to do something I don't want to do. I am all about building wealth and having fun while doing it. And growing through the process. But one of the easiest things that I personally talk about, whether you want to build a business, you want to be a stay-at-home mom, there are companies that you give your time, your money, and energy to that will pay you money. Like and just talking about just dividends. So when you buy a stock in a company, they make money as revenue, they pay their bills, and then they have profit left over. As a result of that profit, they say, everyone who owns stock in my company, I'm going to share my profits with you. Because when you own stock in a company, you're part owner of the business. So now they're saying you own a piece of the business. Therefore, I'm going to give you a piece of my profit just because you invested in me. Now, you don't have to work in my company. You don't have to talk to the CEO. You don't have to do anything. Yet, because you chose to own a piece of that company, you're going to receive that cash flow. Companies pay out over $1 trillion in dividends, extra cash flow from their profits every single year. The question is, are you just giving the company the money because that's where their profits are coming from, or are you owning a piece of that? So regardless if you're 5 years old or you're 80 years old, chances are there's a company you give your money to. Yeah. There's a company that you are loyal to, whether it's your cell phone provider, the apps you use, what you do for fun, the car you drive, the gas you pump in your car, that pay out dividends. And so when I think about passive income in the most standard way, not because I want to be an expert and teach you all things passive income. It's like, look, I don't care the color of your skin or your age. All of us use these products and services. And for some reason, these companies are getting richer. The wealth gap is getting wider. The rich is getting richer. The market is increasing. Yet you're still feeling like you don't belong in this game, when reality is there is no stock market if you don't spend money. Yeah. If the entire world stops spending money, nobody has any money. So unless you decide to never spend money anymore or ever buy anything, then the stock market is a tool that you can utilize. And when I think about our clients on Wall Street, and this is why I tell people I'm not going to get you rich quick. All the clients we had on Wall Street, none of them became billionaires because they were day traders. None of them became billionaires because they flipped their money. That wasn't. Now, what they did do is however they made their money, they brought it to the bank to make sure they never ran out of it. Yeah. The same way I saw that on Wall Street is exactly what I do with my company, Amplify, except your way of making money is your job. Yeah. While they may have started a business or however they did really, I don't care how you get your money, what are you doing with the money you make, and have you given it a job description? So the same way I run a whole business, I have a job too. I get paid too. Well, what am I doing with my money so much that I can preserve it so that if I never have a job again, I have money set aside that is working for me, consistently paying me income where I don't have to work for it. Now, again, it's going to take time to do. But if you never start with $5, you're never going to be in that position, because we will always and have always made the money, spent the money, and given it to the companies that are paying out those dividends. So I personally like to teach investing in the stock market because, one, it's applicable to everybody. You don't need to put a lot of energy into it. Now, there are multiple ways you can make money in the market, but when it comes to people that I serve or people that are older, you might not want to go build a business. I've been kicked out of places before. I've been through a lot running a business. It's not for everybody. I'm not going to act like it's the sexiest thing in the world, but I also never signed up to build my business because I didn't want a boss. I never signed up to build Amplify because I wanted to make a whole lot of money. I actually wanted to change the world, and I found a way to make money. Now I'm in too deep to get out, and I know too much to go back. But I never intended. So think about your intention too. Like, I intended to do something in the world, not to make a bunch of money because I didn't have money. Like, why are we doing? I'm not here to teach you about investing because you don't have money. I'm here to teach you about investing because you do have money. You just haven't been taught and learned what to actually do with it. Not because you're broke, but because you just need a strategy. You need a game plan, and you need progress that you need to see to help you produce the results you want. So I personally like teaching the stock market. That's one of the foundations. I don't care if we teach middle school students or 80-year-old people, because if you are the customer of the companies trade on the stock market, you deserve a piece of the pie. And the easiest way to do that isn't by starting your own business. It's by investing in somebody else's business that you are a customer to, and you actually know what they do, and they're using your money to build a bigger and better business.
Powerful.
Hey, business owners, imagine being able to walk in and out of banks and starting to see approvals instead of rejections. And it's not because you changed anything with your business, but because you put your personal credit report in the position it needed to be in. Here at Takeoff Financial, our team helps business owners just like you using consumer law strategies that get real results in real time. We remove collections, charge-offs, late payments, evictions, delinquent student loans, along with anything else that's keeping you from getting to your funding goals. And best of all, it's completely done for you. We send the disputes, file the complaints, and do everything needed to help put you in position to access your first $50,000 to $100,000 in business credit. So if you're interested, head over to takeofffinancial.com or click the link in the description below to book a free consultation with me and my team to learn more about how we can help you get one step closer to your funding goals.
There's like 8 different things you said in there that I want to unpack. But before I do that, I want to hyper focus a little bit first on the stock market part, right? Like you said, amateurs generalize, experts specialize, and your specialty is mainly around the stock market. More specifically, if I'm not mistaken, REITs.
So all the above.
All the above, but
yes.
Yeah.
But yes, I do teach REITs, just because nobody really talks about it, and I think they're one of the coolest investments that are out there for the everyday person to get into real estate, to build passive income, and to start with less than $200.
So let's say I come to you. I come to you. I have $1,000. I say, Ashley, listen, I got this 1,000. I've been following you for a very long time. I know you eat, sleep, and breathe any and all things stock market, but I know nothing. I'm starting from ground zero. I have this $1,000. I want to start getting my life on track to set future generations up. What are some of the actionable steps I can now take with this 1,000 to get started in the stock market?
First, I would tell you don't use the full 1,000, because if you've never invested before, that $1,000 probably means something to you. So that I would start small and build over time. So take a small portion of that. First thing you want to do is open a brokerage account. That's the account that you need to invest. You can put as little or as much and take it out whenever you want. Then I would say, when it comes to understanding what you want to do, right? So when we think about dividend paying investments, those investments that pay passive income, those are the boring companies, right? You know why people don't talk about REITs? Because they're not boring. They're boring. They're not sexy. You're not flipping your money. You're not about to make millions of dollars. They're boring. However, by law, they have to pay you passive income.
Right.
So would you rather invest where there's no guarantee, or there is a guarantee that someone has to pay you a dividend? Because REITs, by law, real estate investment trusts, by law, have to pay out 90% of their profits. So on average, they are the highest dividend paying investment on the stock market. And so if in fact you come to me and say, all right, I want to build consistent income, right? Okay, cool. I would say consider dividend investing, right? So me as an investor, I put some of my money in growth stocks. So those are stocks that have the ability to grow faster than the average stock market. But then I also invest in dividend paying investments that don't grow as fast, but can give reliable, consistent income. The next thing you want to do is, I always tell people, make a list of the companies you know, you use, and believe in. Because if I sit here and name a random company you never heard of, don't buy it because I said something about it. Because most times, if you ask me what I buy, I will tell you. But I don't teach. The way I teach is to create relatable content. That doesn't mean every single company I talk about is what you should buy. And that goes for everybody on the internet. So one, understanding, what do you want to buy? Well, let's figure out where you give your money to, right? Where your toothpaste you use, the phone you use. Think about what you do on a weekly basis, where your time and your money go, and start to look those companies up and see if they're publicly traded. You can simply Google that company's name and the word stock. And if a stock chart pops up, that means you have the ability to own that company. Now, when it comes to REITs are a little bit different. REITs are where you can invest in a real estate company that owns, operates, and manages commercial real estate. 1 out of every 3 properties is owned by a REIT. So if you look in your skyline, like Lenox and Phipps in Atlanta, King of Prussia Mall in Philly, where I'm from, the Gallery in Houston, those literally are malls. That mall is a REIT, which means you can own stock in that company and get paid consistent income every 90 days. So it's understanding, if you took REITs, well, what types of real estate do you want to get into? Do you want to invest in data centers? You want to invest in warehouses? You want to invest in malls, shopping centers? There's so many different types of commercial real estate you can get into, and digging deeper into that, because if you consume the real estate and their tenants pay income, then you're able to receive that dividend. And so those are just some core things to just think about. But I would specifically say, get your brokerage account open, make the list of where you spend your time, your money, and energy, and I would start there. It's a lot easier to invest in a company you know versus trying to research a boring old company and you don't know what you're looking at. Start with the company that you know that gets all your time, all your money, and start to build from there.
What does it actually take to now leverage a strategy like that and get to a point where the passive income that I'm making from these investments can now start to replace my active income, to where if I do work, I work because I want to and not because I need to? Because I think that's the biggest question. That's a goal that most people are striving towards, right? So what does that actually look like?
It depends on the person. It depends on the commitment. It depends on the amount of money, right? Let's if we stick on the topic of REITs, right? That's like someone who actually, forget buying a REIT with a brokerage account. That's like buying a property. How many properties do you need to have to replace all of your income from your job, right? And if you can figure that out, but what does it take to get one property? You're probably going to take out debt. You probably got to use your credit score. It's going to take time. It's going to take energy, but you may need 10 properties to replace your job's income. But in order to get to 10, you got to get your first one. So I always tell people, you can figure out your passive income goal. And I personally always tell people, start with $250 a year. I sit and have classes that, do you have at least $50 a month coming in passively where you never have to work? Most people say no. So before we get to 5,000, let's get to 50. How do we get to $50 a month? Because if you can get to $50 a month, you can get to 5,000. After a while, it's just a numbers game. For every share you own of a company, you're entitled to that income. Now, once you have the strategy in place and understand how many shares do I need to own, now you start to figure out, how do I create more money over here?
Yeah.
How do I go in, whether you want to drive Uber, you want to have a side hustle? Because it's the same way. If you had to get those 10 properties, if you know what you need to do to get one property, focus on the one property. But in order to get 10, you probably are going to have to make more money. And this is why it's a process. This is why it's a journey. It may take you 10 years to get $3,000 a month. But the problem is, when I sit and have these conversations with people inside of our app, how many of you been working for more than 10 years? How many of you been working for more than 20, 30 years of your life, but you don't have that $2,000, $3,000 coming in every month? So now, you were okay with working those years, and that's completely fine. But what if we have to work the next 10 years, but we're intentional with the strategy? Because 10 years from now, you got $2,000, $3,000 in extra income coming in. You are in a lot better position than where you are today. And you are in an even greater position than what the typical person is in America. But in order to get to that, get your first $10. So yes, we can shoot and dream and put that out there and operate like we have it. But before we get to the $10,000, we got to get our first $10. Before you own a portfolio of 1,000 shares, you have to get that first share. The problem is we so focused over here that we never take action on what we have in front of us. If the share costs $10, get it for $10. Don't worry about, people tell me, this is not a lot of money. Well, you let me know a better solution. Let me know where you don't have to put in any work, where you don't have to manage a property, you don't need a credit score, you don't need any debt. You can start with less than $200, and within 90 days, somebody's going to pay you passive income. I don't care if it's $5, but you're going to get anywhere between 4 to 17% in income. Let me know, because chances are you probably aren't going to get that kind of raise at your job. And if you do, you still have to show up to work every single day.
Yeah.
I have an 8-year-old niece who has $4,000 in passive income, and she's 8.
Crazy.
She's 8, but I started when she was born. I wasn't trying to get her rich quick. I gave myself 18 years to make sure she's financially set. And I'm going to make sure she has $1 million, and I'm going to build that for her. Why? Because I didn't get that opportunity. But because I learned on Wall Street, but because I have this experience, I wasn't afraid to start with $35. Most people are embarrassed. I'd be embarrassed for not starting at all versus starting with a smaller number. But imagine 10 years from now how much income she'll have, because I wasn't embarrassed because I started with $35 the year she was born, because I didn't have a lot of money. But at the same time, that $35 would have been given to some other company, to somebody else. So why not give it to my niece so that she doesn't have to get kicked out her apartment when she starts her building, so that she doesn't have to take out student loan debt the way that I did, and put her in a better financial position.
I love that. I love that. And to piggyback off of that, I was smiling while you were speaking, because I remember one time I heard a story from a friend who talked about there was a guy who held a real estate conference where, people who flew in all across the country, spent thousands upon thousands of dollars to be there. And the subject matter for the conference was essentially how to become wealthy in real estate, how to get rich in real estate. And the guy who they came to watch speak out, he came on stage and he was like, I'm going to be honest with you guys. You paid a lot of money to be here, but I could really sum this up for you very, very quickly. And he was just like, all I do is I find a plot of land in a underdeveloped area, I buy it, and then I wait 20 years. And I love that story a lot, because I think that even in listening to you speak and a lot of the other wealthy people that I've been around speak, it's just like investing and building wealth, it's simple. However, I think we overcomplicate it for one of two reasons. Either because we have a very unrealistic expectation of time, of like, how can I get there now? Or something you mentioned earlier, which I also thought was great, which is shiny object syndrome. So it's like, okay, Ashley told me about getting in the stock market. I'm getting in the stock market. A couple months in, it's like, well, what about this crypto thing? What about, this business? What about that investment opportunity and beyond? From your experience, do you think that which side of the coin have you seen most people fall on? Is it more so struggling with shiny object syndrome, to where it's like they just keep bouncing from thing to thing, to where that's the reason why it's so hard for you to become successful in investing? Or is it more so just an unrealistic expectation of the time it actually takes and the consistent habits you have to practice along that time frame to get there?
I think it's a little bit of both. What did you call it? The shiny?
You never heard that before?
No.
Shiny object syndrome?
No.
So shiny object syndrome wow, that's crazy. Shiny object syndrome pretty much is where like you have this one thing that you focus on, but this other shiny thing that's looming in the distance essentially takes your focus off this, to where now you're jumping from thing to thing.
Yeah.
So it's used to talk about people that like they can't commit to something long term because something that's sexier, if you will, comes along the way, and it's just like, all right, well, this has to be better than the thing I've dedicated the last 2-3 years to. I'm gonna just jump. And as a result, they just find themselves in this vicious cycle of like, okay, I started this business, I started this investment, it should be easy. And then I go into it, okay, it's not as easy as I thought it was gonna be. Okay, this thing looks easier, I'm gonna jump over here. I jump over to this thing, it should be easy. Find out that it's not actually easy. All right, what about this investment? And they just find themselves in this vicious cycle.
Yeah, because the common word you kept using was easy.
Yeah.
Like if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Yep.
To me, whenever I see somebody say, "Oh, you can make this much money," that is my cue. I don't want to learn it. Like, because granted, again, I worked on Wall Street, but like the sexier it is, the more I question it. And that's why when people come to my class, the first thing I say, I'm going to tell you right now, I can't get you rich quick. I'm not going to turn you into a millionaire, but I can show you how to start with what you have, and we could build over time. And I set that expectation because we just want so much now because we've never had it at all. Versus operating like we're going to have everything that our heart desires, and we're going to be patient. We're going to be at peace. But again, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. So, but I think, to go back to your question, I think it's a culmination. It is a shiny object syndrome. Is that what it's called?
A shiny object syndrome.
There you go. So I think it is that, because we don't have the discipline to remain focused. But why would we? This is something that's sexy. It looks good. It's going to give me something I've never had, something I've been yearning for, and I just want it. But then I realize it's going to require a new level of me. It's going to require me to be uncomfortable. And I'm not used to discomfort. I'm used to ease. And people who want ease live a certain life too. The people who yearn for discomfort every single day, or who are uncomfortable every day, get a different life. When I think about my life, every single day I wake up uncomfortable. And the crazy thing is, if I don't wake up uncomfortable, even though it drives me crazy sometimes, I feel like something's wrong. I'll yearn for the next uncomfortable, big, audacious goal, because that's how my brain is wired. But in reality, we need the discipline and understand, to create the life that you want, you cannot become you cannot be the person you always have been. You have to become an entirely different person, which will take time. When you think about who you were 10 years ago, you are a completely different person. If you think about what you were doing 10 years ago, it does not mimic the lifestyle you have today. You had to become someone new, and that is okay. So I do think it is a culmination of us trying to do everything. I think it's a culmination of us beating up on ourselves, thinking we're not good enough. But I think we need to strive for discomfort. Like, I think that is the one thing. And I think we need to own our discomfort and applaud our discomfort and celebrate the wins, even the small ones. But it's just understand, I always tell people, literally at Amplify, we will help you build wealth brick by brick, share by share. Because we call our community the Wealth Builders community, because you don't have to have it all together. We're building it brick by brick, share by share. But in order to build a mansion, you have to lay the first brick. So I just think we have these expectations of just fast microwave reality. And I think the internet does do that to you. But I'd be more concerned if it was easy, if it didn't require a new level of you. That's when I would run away. Because in order, again, to become someone you've never been, you have to do things you've never done. You have to surround yourself around people you've never been around. You just have to literally create a completely different you. And that's okay, uncomfortable, but not everybody's willing to sit in their discomfort. But that's also why a lot of people aren't wealthy.
What was an uncomfortable truth that you had to face as you were navigating your journey towards wealth that maybe you're still working through right now?
It's so funny. I posted a video. There was a point in my life for a very long time I didn't pay myself.
I saw this post, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't pay myself. And in my mind, put it all in the business. Put it all back in the business. You're a bad person if you pay yourself. And then my spiritual advisor says, like, well, how do you pay your employees and you don't pay you? What does that say about you? And I was just like, But in my mind, I'm gonna be wealthy. Like, whenever this is all over, I'll be okay. I'll figure it out. But why are they more important than me? And then my coach said to me, if something ever happens to Amplify, who's gonna save it? Because in reality, it's my job. And he's like, well, I said me. He said, well, you can't save it with any money. And so when he said that, it kind of was like, okay, I see how I'm not paying myself, yet I'll pay out thousands in bonuses, and I love doing that. But I feel uncomfortable. Like, I could pay somebody $20,000 bonus, but if I pay me $30,000, $20,000, it's like, it feels weird, but it's because I've never seen that kind of money before. So now the old Ashley, who's so used to not having money, finally has the opportunity to create it, but it's not hers, it's her company's. And so she can't pay herself because she's not used to having. And we don't talk about our inability to create wealth comes from our experience of not having it. Yet I'm able to create it, but I'm still operating as if the Ashley who didn't have it. So I'm uncomfortable. When you do things or have things you're not used to having, your nervous system is not a matchmaker, a match to what you have and what you say you want. So in those moments, I could have money, my company could, but Ashley having $1 million or Ashley having 20,000, oh, I'm not used to that. Here's why. Because if I had $20,000, what if I lose it? What if I get kicked out? I've been kicked out of places before. What if I'm struggling? What if I go into debt? All these things just start happening and coming back in my mind from 10 years ago because I got PTSD, because I didn't think I was worthy. And so when my coach said that to me, one, it made me feel, both coaches, the one who said I'm willing to pay everybody but not pay Ashley. One, how can I show up and tell the world to pay themselves, but I won't even pay myself? The other is, well, dag, how come everybody's more important than me? Like, what is so bad about Ashley that she's unworthy of having money? But in reality, I feel unworthy of having because when I didn't have, I was unworthy. So how about we work on the worthiness? Because if I feel worthy of having money, I put myself in a position to have more, create more, and then I can take care of everybody. I can pay myself. How about I can have this and that? And then also, if I'm the person that has to come and save my business, then I have the backing to be able to save it. And it was interesting, literally not too long after I started to pay myself, my company needed me. And thank God I started to pay myself but it feels good. And it's interesting because my coach told me this. He said, it feels so much better building a business knowing that if something ever happens, you can take care of it.
Yeah.
Versus you having a family or you having bills and you can't take care of your family. To me, while I don't have kids, my business is my family. And it feels really good to know that if something ever happens, I can make payroll a whole lot of times, because there were points where I could not make payroll.
Yeah.
But I had to reprogram my mind, realizing, well, why are you so afraid of 20,000? Yet you walk around talking about something, you're gonna be a billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't have 20,000 in your bank account. Oh, because I'm not used to having 20,000. Your body will reject what it's not used to having. So how about I normalize 20,000? Because in order to have $1 billion, I have to normalize 20,000. So how about we start small? And again, it works in all aspects of my life, but in particular, that's just one of the first things that popped up, because for a very long time, I didn't pay myself. It was so cool for my company to have $1 million, but not Ashley Fox. Because what if Ashley Fox can't do it? What if Ashley Fox messes up? What if I lose the money? What if I'm not good? And I catch those moments, and it's like, but Ashley Fox can do it because she made it here.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for her to get to this next level, she can't operate in fear in this capacity. So how about we all can make money, we all can pay bills, we all can live the life that we want, but we have to unlearn all those thoughts that have been holding us back, because those thoughts have been holding me back. So I would literally have $100. I would have a negative bank account sometimes, and my company would have hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's like, what does that say about the founder? Like, what does that say about the woman that preaches to the world, pay yourself, you matter, but in reality, in her mind, she doesn't matter so much that she'll work and be a slave for her company, but her company won't pay her. Like, you wouldn't want your employees to work the way you work and they don't get paid. So what makes you any less than in so much that you can't pay yourself? So when I thought about that, I felt like my company, I needed to call HR because I was overworked and underpaid, and I deserved to have bonuses. I deserved to be wealthy. And now it's tied to the growth of my business, as well as everybody in my company. That is how we're compensated. That is, I get a raise when the company makes more money. I don't get paid if the company doesn't make money, but that's how it works. And so it took me years to get to that point. And to this day, I'm still working through it,
Yeah.
but it's like, pay yourself, because you deserve to have money too, So
Have you ever read the book Profit First?
no, what's so crazy? Somebody I have that book. It's so funny. I read all those books when I first started Amplify, where now I think I need to like reread those books because I do have it. And it's funny, someone commented on my video and they put that in there.
Yeah. And I think even as you're listening, I'm just like, she has to go back and read Profit First, because it ties perfectly. I also dealt with something similar to that as well. To your point, basically, I'm not sure if you remember from reading the book, but Profit First pretty much talks about how you can get your business to a point where it's profitable from day one. Because there are a lot of CEOs and entrepreneurs that think, I need to get to a certain dollar amount and then I'll become profitable. But no, it starts in the habits that you incorporate, whether your business is making $10,000 or $10 million. So listening to you say that, I thought that was powerful, because to your point, Amplify is Ashley, essentially. And if the main vessel isn't being taken care of, it's not, okay, when I get to 10 million or when I get to a certain amount and then I'll start taking care of myself. It's, if I start taking care of myself now, I'll be in more of a mental and spiritual and physical space to where I know I'm getting there, right? Versus burning myself out and running around. And to your point, I think that's something most business owners struggle with, to where it's like, I think there are certain business owners that convince themselves, if I'm not tired all the time, if my account isn't in the negative, if I'm not running myself into the ground, then I'm probably not doing the work that is actually supposed to grow my business. In actuality, you're bottlenecking your business, or you're bottlenecking your investment journey, because it's like you're associating not discomfort, but you're associating struggle with your journey to success, right? And
but that's what we're used to.
Right.
I still battle with that. But yeah, this could be a whole deep therapy conversation. But you are 100% right. I still feel like that to this day. But it's like, it doesn't have to be a struggle to create the life that you want. And you don't have to be an entrepreneur to go through that. It's just like, people will say, Ashley, I'm going to join the app when I get my money together. And it's like, no, you don't have to have it perfect to get your money together. You just have to be ready to take the first step throughout within your chaos. And so, you're talking and you sound like me.
Come on now. Another thing you posted on your story recently that I thought was interesting, time. You talked about, first off, I think it's great because there's a large misconception, I think, in our community that exists around coaching. But I think coaching is so powerful because, once again, regardless of whatever level you're at, when you have somebody that's where you want to be, that can come in and give you a new set of eyes, you may have practices and habits that you're doing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that are not conducive to getting where you say you're trying to get to.
Mm-hmm.
You put something on your story the other day. I was like, I'm going to ask her about that when we sit down. Where you talked about you had a coach that essentially you guys audited your calendar.
Mm-hmm.
And you were pretty much saying like, hey, if I'm trying to be this $1 billion CEO, does the time that I dedicate from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep align with where I say I'm trying to get to? What did that practice or going through that exercise do for you? Because I think that would be extremely important for people who are watching to know, because once again, don't tell me your goals, show me your calendar, right? Don't tell me where you're trying to get to, show me your habits. For someone like yourself that's even at this level, for me, it was empowering to hear that was something that a shift that you still needed at this point to get to. So what did working through that with that coach teach you about yourself?
I'm in this phase of business where I'm going from being a founder to a CEO. And I feel like it just happened overnight, even though nothing happens overnight, but like my time is shared. Like there were points in my business where all I did was focus on making money. And that was what I did. And then as we started to get bigger, my time went from not just making money, but looking at numbers, from hiring people to working on my company's culture to all the other things that come from a business outside of just making money. And I think for so many years, that was a focus. When you build a business, you're just trying to make sure you have enough money to survive. Now it's like, okay, cool. Now I want to make sure I'm using the money and making the right investments. And I remember my coach told me he was like, you're going to get to a point where all you do is place bets in your business. And all your bets are not going to work. Some of them are going to work, but the return you get from those bets are going to outweigh the losses you took with the other. So I'm in a place in business now where all I think about are the bets I'm placing. What is the most prioritizing thing? How much do we want to allocate it? Who we going to hire? Who we got to fire? But it's taking me away from the making the money part, because I still have to strategize with that too. And so I'm falling into this like CEO and learning how to run my business, learning how to manage people, and really looking at things from a top level. But also I have to be in the business. So in a conversation, my coach says to me, well, how much of your time, it sounds like you're doing a lot of top level stuff, because that's where my heart is guiding me. He's like, but you still got to make sure you're in your business. And I'm just like, fine. And he was like, where you are in business, it should be a 50-50. So therefore, I should be able to look at your calendar and see that 50% of your time is focused on being in your business, in the weeds to do what you need to do. And then the other 50% is from a high level. So he said, I want you to write down everything you need to do daily, monthly, weekly, and quarterly, and make a list. And we got to make sure, he said, have your assistant, while she might not do it for you, make sure she holds you accountable and even just points out, hey, you're actually not doing this, to remind me, because sometimes I find myself not wanting to do the stuff I don't want to do anymore, when in reality, it is still my job to be able to do those things and be able to prioritize my calendar. Because when I look at my calendar, I'll be able to see, is this is this the best thing I should be doing? That is the most prioritizing thing to get me to where I need to go. And so he said, what are your goals for the remainder of the year? And what do you need to do every day, every week, every month, every quarter to make sure you hit those goals? And so what it did to my brain, it kind of just put me in a more of a focused space to then help me better prioritize what I'm supposed to do, but making sure that it's on my calendar. Because at this point, if it's not on my calendar, then I don't know where I'm supposed to be or what I'm supposed to do. But I want to also use my calendar to hold me accountable even more, to make sure I'm doing the things that I need to do that is in line with who I'm saying I want to become. And so I just thought it was a very powerful, because I do it, but sometimes it doesn't make the calendar, it makes my notebook. And then sometimes I leave that notebook at my house, and then I try to use another notebook, and next thing you know, I'm talking to one of my employees, I'm over here doing this, and then the whole day is over and I'm overwhelmed, and I look up like, did I do those prioritizing things? And then it was like, well, what were those prioritizing things? And so now it's really slowing down, because that's the part that I got to do, to build out my calendar and to honor that, and to really see what does it look like if every second. So I would probably say maybe 60% of my calendar is kind of like that. There. But it's like, if that is and this is a coach that I have that coaches billionaires. So when he tells me what he typically sees his clients do, it's like, I'm listening. I'm not even asking questions. It's like, okay, cool. If he says this to me, this did something to me, let me make sure that this is 100%. Something I dedicate 100% of my time to make sure that it's accurate. And this is the new version of Ashley. So again, it's uncomfortable. I don't want to do it. But in reality, I don't need to make excuses for not doing it. If my coach is telling me this is what he sees and this is what I need to do, then I want to put into practice the best way that I can.
Why do you want to be a $1 billion CEO?
Because one, I want to show the world that there is a way outside of entertainment and sports that you can build wealth, not by your talent, but by your intellect. And actually, it's a $3 billion CEO. So just in case,
let me correct myself.
Just in case, we don't have any investors now, but just in case somewhere down the road I take on investors and I own a third of my business, I'm not worth $1 billion. I net $1 billion as a Black woman who's a CEO who used her intellect to create something that changed the world, not just utilize her talents, but utilize her intellect. I think a lot of what we aspire to be is what we see. And for me, I want to be a holistic woman who can be authentically who she is, love what she does, follow her heart, and change the world, but also become a billionaire in the most healthy way possible. And I feel like that's something the world needs to see. Just like we needed to see Barack Obama become president for people to believe they could be the president. What does it look like if you could see a Black woman become a billionaire, but she utilizes her mind to do that? And I felt like $500 million was too small. I feel like by the time I get to my $1 billion status, it'll be, I mean, we got $1 trillion businesses that exist now. So 10 years from now, 15 years from now, having a Black woman become a billionaire, I don't want it to be something that seems foreign to people. I want it to be something that people believe they can do, but I don't have to be a musician or athlete to be able to create that kind of wealth.
You one of the keywords I've heard you use when we talk about your goals specifically, it's you'll mention goals, and then at some point in time in the sentence, the word uncomfortable, discomfort, I don't want to do it, I don't like it, will come up. We all deal with that, but the individuals, we talked about traits of the most successful individuals, the individuals who can act despite how they feel, situations, what's going on, right? And beyond, those are the ones that ultimately win. From your experience, do you think that most of the people, because we all deal with discomfort when it comes to whatever we're working towards, if I'm dealing with discomfort and I find myself living in this vicious cycle every year where like I have this thing I want to do, but I can't get past this emotional feeling of like, I don't know if I can do it. Is it that my goal isn't, is it that my goal may not necessarily be what I genuinely want for myself and what I want in terms of creating impact for the world? Or maybe my goal isn't big enough to where it's like, no, I have to do this thing. What have you seen in your experience?
So I have the goal, and what do I feel with that goal? I feel stuck.
I feel it's a level of discomfort that I feel in the work that I know I need to do to get there, to where it's like I'm so fearful of the work that every year it's like I know I want to be $1 million CEO. I know I want to be a $10 million CEO. And I know these are the actionable steps, because for me, from what I've learned, especially through coaching, sometimes coaching isn't necessarily learning new information. A lot of times it's more so just getting reminders about things that you knew you had to do anyways, right? So for a lot of individuals, for them, they think that I got to pay for another coach, I got to pay for another mentor, because no, there has to be something else, when subconsciously, really what they don't want to admit is like, I know what I got to do. I'm really just trying to see if there's, I don't.
That sounds like discipline. Yeah. I can honestly say I battle with that every single day. But I think it's discipline. But I'm also just a firm believer that when you are ready to do what needs to be done, it will happen. Like sometimes people have to have children to put fire under their butt to go out and become better people. Yeah. Sometimes you got to go through a breakup to realize you are not in the best place in life, and now you have to go to that next level. Sometimes at Amplify, I got to fire somebody to realize, that might be holding me back, or that, everybody has their wake up call. And sometimes that's what you need. I think it's more so about not placing judgment on yourself, giving yourself grace to know I'm doing my best. Before I went to bed, did I do the best that I could today? If not, then I'm going to stay up, and just accept that you don't have any control over the situation in your becoming. Because if it was easy, you would already be doing it. So understanding if it's hard, that's okay. But challenge your mind to do the little pieces to it. Maybe it's not the big task you got to do. Maybe it's just I'm going to do this one little small thing because I can't do this big one. I find myself procrastinating. But instead, let me do this little thing. And then challenging yourself to do it. So for me, I take my big audacious goals and I put it into little pieces. And what people don't know, your mind is driven by progress, not results, right? When I see a little bit, like right now, like I'm trying to lose 5 more pounds. And when I see my wake up, my waist is a little bit smaller. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna eat the best food today because I see my progress. I'm excited about it. But in the moment where I eat like rice or something. But like if I eat something that like it's not in line with what I'm supposed to eat, it's like, dang, I'm sad, but it's like, it's okay. You get a new day every day to wake up. Like me, I don't need a new year. I just need a new day. Then don't let me get a Monday. I get a whole new week. So putting yourself in a space where it's okay if you're just not perfect. I used to be really, 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 really hard on myself. And it was like if that version of Ashley was 10 years old, I was constantly yelling at her. I was constantly telling her she wasn't good enough. I was constantly pushing her. When in reality, she just needed a hug. She just needed somebody to say, I'm proud of you. It's okay. You're doing your best. And I see you. And I think those are the conversations we have to have with ourselves. Because if you're not ready to do what needs to be done, it just means your nervous system has not caught up with the goals you set for yourself. That's why it's not easy to do. Spend more time being more present so that you normalize those things. You put yourself, like, I know I cannot work from home. It sounds so good, but I need to accept the fact that I cannot work from home.
Yeah.
So what environment do I need to be in to be most productive? And I have to push myself out of my house to go do work. But sometimes it doesn't work, and I just end up sitting on the couch and I watch TV and I just lay there in my thoughts. But I wake up the next day and it's like, I'm gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
And when I look at my life and the trajectory of my life, while it might not have been perfect, it's those moments when you did get up that outweigh those moments when you beat up on yourself or when you felt like you weren't good enough. And so over time, I think I figured it out. But we want to be so perfect every single day when in reality, we're humans.
Yeah.
My coach told me this. He said, if there's 30 days in a month, what do you learn from his clients? He's like, 20 of those days will be productive days. And like 8 of them will be average days. And like 2 of them will be bad days. And so when he said that to me, because when I would have my bad days, I think the whole world is over.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm a failure, or I'm just sad. But it's like, I realized that I really only have 2 bad days. I don't know if I had any bad days this month. No, I did have a bad day. I had a bad day. But it doesn't define the whole month. So it's like, of the 365 days, if 24 of them are bad, why does that define all the remaining days of your life? We just put all this pressure on ourselves. So I would just say relax, and just put yourself in a position to be committed. Yeah. Do the little things, because it's the little things that add up, and put yourself in a better environment. If you know this doesn't serve me, then maybe today I'm not able to get out of this environment, but tomorrow I'm going to try again, and just keep trying. Next thing you know, you're going to wake up, you're going to be a completely different person because you didn't give up. People always ask me, like, we just made the Inc. 5000 list, and they were just like, how did you guys grow so fast? And when somebody said it to me, I just was like, there was no business plan, there was no strategy. It was just like all the hell that I went through. When those bad days came or those bad experiences came, I still woke up the next day like a crazy person thinking I could do it again. And it's like, I think it's waking up and constantly living life through the discomfort, living life through the pain, and knowing that at some point the pain will subside and you're going to figure it out. Because I've been through a lot of pain, but when I look up and we grew 2,600% in one of the fastest growing companies in the nation, it was like, I didn't even know, I wasn't even keeping track. But I can tell you everything I went through in the past 3 years, and every time I cried and every frustration I had, but it was those moments that gave me the confidence that I have today to be the woman here talking to you. But I needed those moments to have the clarity that I have today to articulate in my heart what I can give to the world. So I wouldn't change my life at all. But when I'm going through it, I'm owning it, I'm embracing it, I'm allowing it to go through, and I'm just coming out on the other side.
When you do get to the 3 billion, what do you want the world to say? What would you hope the world has said about what you and Empify have contributed?
I feel like by the time I get to 3 billion, they're gonna be saying it way before then. To be honest, Empify changed my life. Empify changed my life. Empify changed my child's life. When you think of tissues, you think of Kleenex. When you think of financial education, you're gonna think of Empify. And I don't even think it'll be Ashley. It's gonna be Empify. I just so happen to be the person who created it. Right. I want Empify. I want what Empify gave me. I want it for my family. I want it for my children. And we finally have a place that sees us for who we are and can take us to where we want to go. The woman who created it just so happened to be a billionaire. That's how I see it.
As we close, first off, this has been a very insightful conversation for me, and I appreciate you for coming on. As we start to close, last question I have for you. If you were sitting in my seat, and across from you was Ashley 10 years into the future, and she only had 30 seconds to speak, what do you think she would say to you?
Attention business owners, are you tired of getting denied for business credit because your personal credit is still holding you back? You have the business, you have the vision, but every single time that you apply, lenders hit you with the same brick wall time after time again, your credit report. You see, here at Takeoff Financial, we use advanced consumer law strategies to get every negative item removed from your credit report. Things like collections, charge-offs, late payments, delinquent student loans, and so much more. And best of all, it's fully done for you. Our team sends out the dispute letters, files the complaints, and handles everything needed to get your credit to the finish line. Which means you don't have to lift a finger, and we'll do all the heavy lifting needed to put you in position to finally get approved for business credit. So if you're ready to stop getting denied and start getting funded, head over to takeofffinancial.com to book a free consultation with me and my team to see how we can put you in position to get one step closer to your funding goals.
Okay, wait, start over. If you're sitting there.
If you were in my seat, so you were here.
Ashley today,
and sitting across from you was Ashley 10 years into the future. She plopped in, time machine, but she only had 30 seconds to speak to you. What do you think she would say?
And I'm interviewing her?
Well, she's just dropping game on you, pretty much.
And what's she gonna say?
She has 30 seconds to speak to you, and then she's out. 10 years from
You should have gave me this question beforehand. Okay, wait.
Nah, it's all right.
Wait, okay. 10 years from now, Ashley is sitting here.
Yep.
Or I know what she looks like. I know what she's wearing.
Yep.
And this Ashley
got 30 seconds to speak to you.
And she
came to get you some.
Okay. I try to do this to myself a lot. Okay, and she gave me some game.
Or whether it's counsel or just telling you about what life looks like then, or whatever it may be. She has 30 seconds to speak. It could be anything.
I feel like, okay. So she was saying, girl, I need you to relax. We're going to do everything times 100 of what you want to do. Keep going. Make sure you meditate. Make sure you do your qigong and you breathe a little bit. And everything that you're going to go through is going to be so uncomfortable, so worth it. But I need you to remember it's like doing pull-ups in the gym. There was a moment when you couldn't do it. And at some point you got your first one. And then you got your second one. And I want you to know, going to the gym, while it's challenging, you know it's rewarding. The rest of your life is going to be just like that. So I want you to keep going. I am proud of you. I love you. You are changing the world. And what you think is most uncomfortable is the part of you the world needs to see. And when you show them, you become me 10 years from now. That was good advice to Ashley Marie Fox right now at 36. But that's what she would say.
Ashley M. Fox, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
I know we have to get you out of here. Before we do, your camera here. Let the people, of course, know where they can find you.
So my name is Ashley M. Fox, the CEO and founder of Empify. You can go to our website, empify.com. We have a bunch of free classes, free resources, our virtual summits coming up. On social media, I am _Ashley M. Fox, TikTok, The Ashley M. Fox, LinkedIn, Ashley M. Fox, YouTube. And also you can find Empify, just EMPIFY across all social media platforms.
There you go. And ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, what are you doing? Take a second, take a minute, take an hour out of your day right here, right now to hit the like button and show this episode some love. Tell a friend to come back and rewatch it again. And as always, I am Marvin Francois. That is the always incredible Miss Ashley M. Fox. You guys have been good. We've been great. This has been amazing. Thank you all. And God bless. Until next time.